So these are all the things, the wonderful things we want for our teams, right? There's a long list, and as leaders, there's so much that's put on your shoulders, and there's so much that's on your plate, and these are all the things we want. But I'm here to tell you, that's the fruit. And unfortunately, that fruit all becomes unavailable if we're not concerned about the seed, which of course in this case is around connection. So connection is the first essential trait that we have to be considering if we want healthy teams. And so a good way to think about it here is for a team to work, connection comes first. We've got to be focused on that connection. And again, we tend to overlook it because we assume it's occurring or we can't see it, so we're going to focus on other things. All right, let me give you a couple more data points, because I know there's a lot of you and they want the data. So let's look at some of the data. So when team connection is high across a multi-generational team, all these things get improved. Recruitment goes up. We're 167% more likely to recommend our employer. Performance goes up by 56%. Engagement goes up because there's a 75% reduction in employees' sick days. And the mic drop data point of all of this is around retention. And I know how important that is for this group. There's a 313% less intent to quit. Now, all of these numbers would surprise any other audience except this group. Now that you know that connection is our most significant need, right? According to that Harvard study, it's our most significant need. And so if our most significant need is being met at the place where we spend most of our waking hours, which of course is at work, then of course we're gonna see all these big benefits. So let's double click on retention really quick. So connection is a retention rocket. So if there was someone on your team that was disconnected, at best case, they would stick around for 2 years. But if that person, someone else on your team was fully connected and they showed up and they felt a sense of inclusion and belonging inside the team and organization, according to the data, they're 4 times more likely to stick around. So they're gonna stick around for 8 years. And while they're there for those 8 years, they're likely to have referred 4 people to the employer, trained 3 new hires, mentored 2 people, maybe earned another degree, becoming highly valuable for the team and organization. Meanwhile, that disconnected person, they've got 1 foot in, 1 foot out the whole time they're there. And at the end, what do they have to show for? Just 1 polished LinkedIn profile. So when we look at all this data, I kept scratching my head because I'm thinking, gosh, this just feels so ironic. Because where we spend most of our working time, we're not finding connection. And it really comes down to this, that we're not finding company at our company. And we want to change that. We want to find ways to cultivate more connection. So we're going to get to some solutions here in just a minute. All right, but we started way up in the northern Canada. Now I want to take us to southeastern Brazil. And I want to answer this question. What's the difference between surviving and thriving? So some researchers recently went down there to this area because what was interesting is that there was a lake village that they were looking at, and then 40 miles away there was an ocean village. And on paper, these 2 villages were the exact same, except when they looked a little bit closer and they started to research what was the difference between these 2, and they started looking at the lake village and they found, gosh, actually this is filled with people that were just barely scraping by, right? The town was barely surviving, and the people were unfriendly, highly distrustful, very selfish. And then they traveled again 40 miles to the ocean village, and there they found the community thriving, and people were highly trustful, and they were very selfless and very generous. And so they were trying to figure out what was the difference. And they were thinking, gosh, is it the sea breeze? Was it the pollution in the lake? Was it the different nutrients in the fish that were being caught in these different pools of water that were contributing to these massive differences? And no surprise, what they found the actual catalyst here the answer was connection. But what they really wanted to figure out is what was the actual catalyst for connection? What was the actual thing that was making a big difference in these 2 communities? And here's what they found. Actually, any guesses? The answer is in these images. I'm sure many of you are saying it, or you're saying in your head, I'm not hearing you. The connection catalyst was the size of the boats. The size of the boats. So here was the difference. Because the community that lived on the ocean, they needed big boats. They needed heavy equipment to actually go out in all of the tough terrain that is the ocean to fish. So they needed a big boat, heavy equipment, and that caused the team to collaborate and to pull teams together to actually accomplish those bigger goals of navigating the ocean. Meanwhile, at the lake, those boats were individual boats. They were one-person boats. And so when they went out onto the lake to start to fish, they started competing with each other for the right spots to go. And so again, that resulted in that community just barely scraping by and being very territorial and selfish and distrustworthy with all of their peers. And so here's why this is, I think, a wonderful analogy, because when you think about Baycare, this is a big boat, and you've got ocean, big goals to accomplish. And I think this is a great analogy, and your health system is where this connection can occur. And not only are you going to be better off for it, your team's going to be better off for it. And according to this analogy, the overflow is going to spill into the community and make the community thriving as well.